what I'd like to do, if you got some time, can I have just a few more moments of your time? And I promise not to inflict myself upon you any further, is that I want to go through a series, I think, of structured instructions about what I think we ought to be doing in order to protect ourselves, that this virus, if you've had it, you may have an antibody and you may not ever contract it again. The scientists say that two objects cannot occupy the same space. So the idea here is this. If you've had the virus and you've got an antibody that fought the virus and won, which is what vaccines do, that will stop all of that same virus comes back again, it will not your body will not accept it. So that's one thing that I think is important. I don't trust any of these so-called vaccines because the Trump administration and the drug producers are such liars. They all say they got something. I don't trust them. I wouldn't take it anyway. But I think spiritually we need to get ready for a different. And everybody's prognosticating it, even people that are not prophets. But the people who are social engineers are looking at the world in which we now find ourselves. I mean, I'm sitting here now, the engineers in the studio all got on masks. And every time I come in, they all got on a mask. I got a mask too. I don't have it. I got one. You go out on the street and everybody's got. The face of the world the face of humanity has been closed. And I think about some of my friends down in Arkansas, down in Texas, or maybe out in Idaho or Oregon, who don't live in a major metropolis like New York, and so you don't see the frequency and the consistency of America has its face covered. Hell, if I wouldn't be surprised if I woke up tomorrow morning and they had a mask on the Statue of Liberty out on Ellis Island. Everywhere you look in New York, people got on masks. People who you would not think, homeless people are wearing the damn mask. I mean, you would think these people would be too irresponsible, right, to wear masks. Everybody's got on a mask. Children. Everywhere you go, the face of America is covered. And you can't see any faces anymore, just the eyes. Look like we're in Iran or somewhere. And this, my friend, and of course you may not see the same thing in Oklahoma, or you may not see the same thing in the panhandle of Texas, of Florida, or of Texas, or New Mexico. I mean, out in the Navajo Nation, out in Arizona, everybody wears a mask. It's incredible that in a matter of a couple of months, the face of the world of humanity has been covered with a mask. And our very essence, our breathing, our contact, our essence has to be covered. Otherwise, we will kill our neighbor. There's poison in our coughs. There's poison in our sneezes. There's poison in our talking. I mean, gee, think of how dramatic that is. There is absolute death in a sneeze. A sneeze from your neighbor will kill you. First, it'll sicken you. Then it'll throw you in the hospital where you can't breathe. And then they'll have to stick a plastic tube down your throat. And all that from a sneeze from your neighbor. I wouldn't be surprised if they start putting masks on the Lincoln Memorial. I mean, humanity has its face covered. I got a photo from Instagram from Dr. Bishop Salia down in Haiti, and all the little school children down there had on masks. The face of humanity has been covered for fear of death. Have you ever seen anything like this before? Never. Never. And I'm afraid we're not going to go back to a time when where we'll be able to see the face of humanity again. It's been covered. So spiritually, we need to get ready for that. What does this mean spiritually? And for some of you, let's start psychologically by the psychological norms that have been uprooted in just a matter of a couple of months. not even I could have prophesied that these uprooting of our social norms would be so devastating and so absolute. 54 million children in the 50 states of America were not in school, while at the same time the schools were closed in Italy, in Germany, and most of the European world, in England, in Ireland, in Spain. No person was going to any school, or in elementary school, high school, university, schools of higher learning. They were all shut down. I mean, no schools were functioning, and no children were attending schools in the normal classroom settings. I mean, even I could not have prophesied that was something like that would be that all-encompassing of the humanity. So, here's what I do. Here's how I live my life. So I said, well, now, if A has happened, if something as dramatic as that in terms of disrupting of social norms of all schools being closed in all 50 states, what's going to happen next? What effect does that have upon the future? And my immediate, and of course you don't have to be a genius to figure this out, is that there's going to be an education deficit. Online schooling is great. I don't have a problem with the fact that it's great, and we're going to continue to do it here, but it's not the same as interactive classroom learning. It isn't. It isn't. You see, and everybody knows this, you not only learn the ABCs, you learn the systems of what the education process is, whether it's calculus or whether it's geometry or whether it's biology. But it's that personal interaction, that instance of answering a question and getting it right or getting it wrong in the midst of a classroom setting is 90% of the education process. So there's going to be an education deficit. Well, what does an education deficit mean 7 years out into the future? For the students that did not go to a graduation, that were exited from their schools in the first part of the year 2020, their education deficit and may not get back in school until the fall of the year or to 2020, that year of deficit, what does that do? Now, I have some experience at that. And I'll tell you what experience is. So down in North Carolina, I lived in a Robeson County area. It's in the southeastern part of North Carolina, right close to the border of South Carolina, and about 90 miles away from Atlantic Beach, from the actual shore. We would drive to the beach, about 70 miles to the beach, if you go to the beach. Deep farming area, tobacco, it's tobacco and cotton all over the place. There's a lot of farming of pigs. It goes on in that region as well, and some wheat and barley, and some peanuts. And so the schools were segregated at the time I went, and cotton, you would plant cotton in the spring of the year, like in May or June, preferably in April, and the stalks would grow up, and then over the summer months, the cotton comes in a green bowl. It's like it looks like a small pear, and it's green, and the outer shell is as hard as a turtle. And then that cotton bowl, and a stalk rolls up, and there could be 100 of those bowls on one stalk, and the stalk is a heavy stalk. It's thick. It's like it comes up first as a stem, and then over July and in August, that green bowl that has that cotton in it, when the sun bears down on it day in and day out, it ripens and opens up and spreads open like that, and the cotton is then exposed. And then you go and you pick the cotton out of the bowl. And the bowl itself then dries and gets hard and brittle. But the cotton is not ready to be picked. Thank you, Mr. Engineer. The cotton is not ready to be picked until September. But the school starts in August, right? So if you're a farm boy like me, you don't start with everybody else. I didn't go to school. I didn't get to my classes until all the cotton was harvested. And sometimes we didn't get all the cotton picked until October. So the last of August, all of September, and part of October, I wasn't in school. I was in the cotton field. I didn't go to school. And that no other country boy went to school. Now, those who didn't have that responsibility, they went to school. They were called city people, right? So when I finally got to school in late September, early October, a month and a half of teaching I had to catch up with. And I did. It was understood. That's how life was. So I understand something about missing a segment of the education process, but it was a part of the culture. And the teachers, they were all my teachers were Hamite women and men, and they're one thing above. You think I'm aggressive about ATLAH. You think I'm aggressive about education. You ain't seen nothing. Them teachers spent day and night. Listen, the teachers that taught me, Madre Bowman, Esther Butler, Esther Bennett rather, all of them, all our teachers ain't got nothing on our teachers. They stayed with you day and night. They knew that I had missed a month and a half of school, and they stayed with me. And every student, because they believed back in the 1950s and the 1960s, the only way we're gonna make it is that we educate our young and let them go on to do it and build and do greater things than that generation had done. And one day we won't have to be out in the cotton fields picking cotton. So I know something about the absence of education process. I was able to make it, praise God, and I graduated with honors. Or at least I partial honor. I wasn't too honored. I mean, I did get out of high school. I didn't flunk. I didn't fail one class. But it was an extraordinary time. And thank God the same spirit is here in our school now. That's why I do what I do. That's why ATLAH Great Tomorrow's Elementary School. That's why we do it. Anyway, so a year of missing education is going to be devastating. And I've got to find a way, working with Elder LaFleur and the parents, I got to find a way to have some social interaction. I've got to find a way to be able to do that, because psychologically there could be a year of drain and the students will not be able to advance because the process of being able to be to move forward. So that's number one, but not only schools, churches as well. Churches are going to be different. Now there's some pastors who are still trying to have church and bringing people in. He's an idiot, you know. But churches will be, and those who are not sufficient, who have not developed ministry, online ministry, and don't have a strong following, if this social, by the fall of the year when they're finally going back to churches in large groups again, and there's a breakout of this virus again, forget it. It's all over with. These churches might have pulled down their sign and go out of business unless they've got a strong structure of online ministry. And that ministry has to not just be that people can turn on their computer, but you must know how to reach people through the computer system. You must know how to preach through the computer system. And that's saying a lot. It's one thing to just turn it on and start talking, but it's another thing to know how to do visual ministry. It's something altogether different. And then there's the entertainment world. I haven't gone down to Broadway here in New York City, but the theaters down there are massive venues and cathedrals of performances of actors. It's closed. Carnegie Hall is closed. Lincoln Center closed. The Rogers Theater closed. The Edison Theater. They're all closed. They're all locked up tighter than a drum. And the entire restaurant industry around it is all shut down. Times Square and Broadway is dark as 1,000 midnights down in the cypress swamp. Entertainment. Entertainers themselves are going to get rusty. The fact that they're not performing, they're going to lose something. To lose a year of not performing, and perhaps it might have been their best year, reaching their absolute peak, where they got all the kinks of their acting worked out, and they're at their best, and now this. Sports. Athletes missing a year or 2 years of being on the court, being on the gridiron, being able to be on the diamond, missing a year of that, and what that means, and who will go back to a stadium of 30, 40, 50,000 people who are sneezing and coughing and yelling and throwing up their popcorns and their hot dogs. The social change is immeasurable. America will not be the same again. And then, of course, food. The cost of food is going to go through the roof. Medical supplies, doctors, physicians, medical attention. If we don't get a blanket universal medical program for all citizens in America, then the sick citizens who don't have good health care are going to bring diseases to the ones who have the Cadillac health care programs. Everybody's going to die. Everyone's going to die. Let me go back for just a moment. I was telling you about the fact that AIDS has not been cured as of yet. It has. It's been 40 years. They haven't found a cure for this virus called AIDS. But they've got a drug on the market now. There were several cocktails of drugs that came up over a few years or so that would keep people's T cells in something or whatever another, and give people some sense of being able to live. But they knew that their strength and health weren't there. There's a new drug on the market called Biktarvy that is now touting that you can take it and you can have sex with someone and AIDS is not transferred from you to them, but you still have it in your body. Mr. Engineer, roll that clip, please.
What would I say to somebody living with HIV? Keep being you. Keep loving. Keep aspiring. Keep striving. And ask your doctor about Biktarvy. Biktarvy is a complete one-pill, once-a-day treatment used for HIV in certain adults. It's not a cure, but with one small pill, Biktarvy fights HIV with 3 different medicines to help you get to undetectable. That means the amount of virus is so low it can't be measured in lab tests. So keep pushing, keep creating, and keep pouring your soul into everything you do.
Serious side effects can occur, including kidney problems and kidney failure. Rare life-threatening side effects include a buildup of lactic acid and liver problems. Do not take Biktarvy if you take tofetilide or rifampin. Tell your doctor about all the medicines and supplements you take if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, or if you have kidney or liver problems, including hepatitis. If you have hepatitis B, do not stop taking Biktarvy without talking to your doctor. Common side effects were diarrhea, nausea, and headache.
If you're HIV positive, keep loving who you are, inside and out. Ask your doctor if Biktarvy is right for you.
I'm Alfonso, and there's more to me than HIV. There's my career, my cause, my choir. I'm a work in progress. So much goes into who I am. HIV medicine is one part of it.
Prescription Dovato is for adults who are starting HIV-1 treatment and who aren't resistant to either of the medicines dolutegravir or lamivudine. Dovato has 2 medicines in one pill to help you reach and then stay undetectable, so your HIV can be controlled with fewer medicines while taking Dovato. You can take Dovato any time of day, with food or without. Don't take Dovato if you're allergic to any of its ingredients or if you take tofetilide. If you have hepatitis B, it can change during treatment with Dovato and become harder to treat. Your hepatitis B may get worse or become life-threatening if you stop taking Dovato. So do not stop Dovato without talking to your doctor. Serious side effects can occur, including allergic reactions, liver problems, and liver failure. Life-threatening side effects include lactic acid buildup and severe liver problems. If you have a rash and other symptoms of an allergic reaction, stop taking Dovato and get medical help right away. Tell your doctor if you have kidney or liver problems, including hepatitis B or C. One of the ingredients in Dovato may harm your unborn baby. Your doctor may prescribe a different medicine than Dovato. Your doctor should do a pregnancy test before starting Dovato. Use effective birth control while taking Dovato. The most common side effects are headache, diarrhea, nausea, trouble sleeping, and tiredness.
So much goes into who I am and hope to be. Ask your doctor if starting HIV treatment with Dovato is right for you.
All right, so after 40 years, these are some of the viruses reveal containment prescriptions and medications, but it's not a cure. So reasonably, we can consider that maybe coronavirus will never find a cure. Then how are we going to adjust ourselves? We're all going to have to live. I think one of the more profound statements I've heard, I don't think I heard it from Dr. Fauci, but some other, Dr. Gupta, but maybe it was one of the other epidemiologists that have been studying this for years, who said that we all ought to live our lives from this point on as if we have the virus. That way, whatever stimulates to give activity to that virus, we want to make sure that we don't have that happen. And we want to then interact with everybody else that we come in contact with that we have the virus. Now, at some point in time about that, I mean, if we live our lives as if I have the virus, I may be asymptomatic, but I've got it, and everybody does that, then perhaps that itself can develop what is known as the herd immunity. That is to say that we will all act in such a way as a herd of people all on the same page, and that would be a process of immunity itself better than a vaccine. I'm debating about how when people start coming back into the sanctuary, both the LaFleur families were here not long ago in the sanctuary. They sat way in the back of the church. That was good. But when I preach, I spit. That's what I call it, righteousness, and not only droplets, but fluids fly from my mouth. It's just how it is. So my preaching, people want to be able to stay around me, and I'm looking at my engineers now, but they've got their faces covered. They've got their mask on. So life will not ever be the same again. And so psychologically, what effect is that going to have on humanity? Years ago, you put on a mask, people thought you were getting ready to stick up something. Now, you don't put on a mask, people look at you like you're a criminal. Years ago, you put on a red bandana, cowboy handkerchief, wrap it around your face, people thought you were a criminal. You put on one now, people think you're a hero. God, how change instantly in the twinkling of an eye. That we're not experiencing this change. Travel, entertainment, sports, and medical. And I can tell you this, I can say this to some of you who think that, it's freeloading for poor people to have access to medical care the same way the rich does. But I can tell you this, you can listen to me if you want. You can reject me if you like. If you don't heal all the poor people are going to make you sick. That's right. Jesus said you're going to have poor people with you all the time. And what he meant by that, there's always going to be poor people with a disease around healthy people, and the poor people are going to make the sick people. The only way you can guarantee that your medicine that you're taking and that the doctors that are taking care of you will guarantee that you will have health and a reasonable portion of strength is that you got to heal your brother. I'm telling y'all in legislation, in the Senate, I'm telling you, Mitch McConnell, I'm telling y'all that running these processes of government, you better put together a program where everybody can get the best of medical care. I mean, everybody get the best of medical care, because the least medical care to anyone is the least medical care to everybody. And boom shakalaka goes right there. You can quote me if you like. Send me a couple of dollars. I could always use an offering. You know how preachers are. So I think it's important. And then beyond that, in terms of our developing and getting ourselves ready to deal with this pandemic as it goes forward over the summer months, there may be some assuaging of it. It may not be as ferocious as it was over the first strike. The second time at it, I've heard many of these professionals in this epidemiologist field for many years say, we're just in the first and second innings of a 9-inning ball game. It ain't over with yet, and it ain't. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I am he. I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.